We've now seen all 204 cards, including more ways to shift and a card that literally changes the rules. Let's check them all out now. What's up, Illuminators? It's Charlie and Amethyst back, and yes, all 204 cards have now been spoiled. So let's take a look at those now, and remember, Enchanted reveals are starting tomorrow.
And we will have a dedicated video as we always do for those, so stay tuned.
So for now, let's look at the cards we do have. So let's start off as we have been doing with Dual Ink cards. So starting us off in the Dual Ink colors, this is an Emerald Ruby Dual Ink Glimmer, and new characters from Alice in Wonderland joining the game. We have Tweedledee and Tweedledum, Strange Storyteller, so long overdue for these two to join the game. Really happy to see them. They are a 5-cost inkable 4/4 questing for 2 with the ability Another Recitation. Whenever this character quests, you may return chosen damage character to their player's hand. It's interesting that it's this character, these characters, it wouldn't make sense, but yeah, we've seen quite a few of these abilities now, this set, damage characters getting returned to hands. Of course, it is a non-quest ability, so it's always one of those ones you have to set it up. So I'm not sure exactly how good these characters are going to be, but super happy to see them in the game.
It's also because obviously with the other Emerald Ruby card that we had with the Queen, we're talking about putting those damage,
That's
those
true.
damage.
There is the synergy.
So I think unless the Queen is there, I don't actually think players will be too feeling threatened about this. They might not act straight away.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is you might be able to quest at least once before it's gone, unless the Queen is there or the Queen is played right after. So you can also think that you're playing this one first, the Queen comes next, ping the damage, this one quests, and send it back.
But remember, the Queen is only when you play a new character.
Okay. So this has to come after. So at that point, you already know as a player, and you could be able to banish before they execute.
I'm not convinced, unfortunately, but
I love the effect though.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
And then up next, we finally have a Floodborn Hehe. He's expanded consciousness. He is a Sapphire Steel Dual Type Glimmer, 5-cost, inkable, 1/5 questing for 2. He will shift in at 3. He has resist +1 because he might as well. And he has the ability clear your mind. When you play this character, put all cards from your hand into your inkwell, face down and exerted. So this is probably my favorite art of the set. This is just absolutely incredible.
Everything about it is incredible.
It's definitely the meme of the guy. So this card, super beautiful looking. I think the ability is both hilarious and brilliant. Like, imagine, playing this character down on turn 3 and then inking up to 7 or 8.
But that's what I was thinking. When is the right time to play this? I cannot not even tell. Would you ever shift? I don't know.
I don't know. It's also not a May ability, so you have to do this if you play here. I do think it's probably more of a gimmick than anything else, but I already saw people online saying, you could set this up, you could ink a load, and then, if you get like Holy World afterwards, you refill your hand, and then you're able to...
It's insane.
To do
insane.
All of that. So,
again, I'm going to go back to what I said in the previous video. I think we're saying, okay, maybe some of those cards are not strong. Maybe we're not seeing all those super meta defining. But this set in particular has been so creative. So creative, the choices. Yeah. It's like all sorts of gimmicky gameplay you'd expect are coming in. And they feel nice, though. So I can't wait to try this out.
Yeah. And we have Mirabelle Madrigal, musically talented, a 6-cost inkable, 2/6 questing for 2. Mirabelle is a Floodborn, so she can shift in at 4, and she has the ability, her own special gift. Whenever this character quests, you may return a song card with cost 3 or less from your discard to your hand. So very nice to see even more support for the Madrigal deck. And yes, the designers of the game are telling us that they want these cards in this deck to be singing. Outside of a Madrigal deck, I think, Mirabelle actually might have some use. We've seen these kind of like Amber Amethyst mid-rangey decks. Mirabelle potentially could fit into those if they start kind of adding a few more songs to their toolkit. Which songs can she grab? Well, Friends on the Other Side is, I think, the most obvious one. We saw the new song, This Is My Family, which gives you a lore and lets you draw a card. Someone actually raised in the comments that they felt the song aspect of it was a bit of a trap because, oftentimes you're just losing out on the lore you would get from questing, but it now makes sense because Mirabelle can now recur it. If it was just an action like gathering knowledge and wisdom, you wouldn't be able to get it back with Mirabelle, so I think it makes sense there.
It is interesting as well to note that she is the second Amber Amethyst card for dual ink, it's a second Mirabelle. We saw another one before with Spessy when they revealed, right? So it's funny that they'll bring her again. They're really pushing for the theme and they're using the same character to do so.
Yeah. Next up in Amber Steel, we have Rhino, motivational speaker, a 6-cost uninkable 4/7 questing for 2 with the ability Destiny Calling. Your other characters get +2 willpower. Firstly, very, very happy to see Rhino. This is a character we definitely wanted to see coming to the game with the inclusion of Bolt. So here we go. Such an awesome character. In terms of the card itself, it is an effect similar to something like Rapunzel's Tower. Definitely a card that has started to see play in the Diggy Diggy Hole version of Amber Steel. So Rhino is kind of like that, but on a body. To be honest, I think one of the advantages of Rapunzel's Tower is that it is a location, so it's not susceptible to some of the common removal. Rhino could be removed and then you lose his effect. So I think that is maybe one of the downsides. Of course, 6-cost uninkable, very, very expensive in an ink combination that I think usually wants to stay a little bit lower to the ground. But 4/7 stats means he's gonna stick to the board, is kind of a nuisance to remove. It's definitely an interesting card. We'll see how playable it actually ends up being. So next up we have Thunderbolt Wonderdog. He's an Amber Sapphire Jewel Glimmer, a 5-cost inkable 3/7 questing for 2, and he is a Floodborn, but he's a very special type of Floodborn because he is Puppy Shift 3. So you may pay 3 ink to play this on top of one of your puppy characters.
That's so cool.
So usually when you're shifting, it's onto a specific character. We saw Universal Shift as well, which can shift onto anything. And Thunderbolt is kind of somewhere between those two because he can shift onto any puppy character. So any character with the puppy classification. So he has many targets, but it's not like he can shift onto anything. And he's also a bodyguard on top of that. So I do think this is actually quite a nice card for those puppy decks. Being able to shift in these stats on turn 3 is actually really, really good.
Questing for a lot and acting as a bodyguard, right? It's super, super cool.
Yeah, because in terms of stats, he's 1 strength short of a Chempo, and we know Chempo, very difficult card to get off the board, especially if you're able to get Thunderbolt down on 3 or 4. I think that's...
It is insane. I think that's a really, really good card. And if you don't know, so Thunderbolt is actually one of characters of the TV show that the 101 Dalmatians watches, or at least the puppies watches, and they love him, so he's kind of a superhero. Yeah. So he's bringing that straight from that TV show in that universe.
I think the only downside really is Thunderbolt's going to be great in a puppy deck, but I think because of that, he's also probably not going to be that great in a competitive deck because you really need that setup.
Unless we get a very strong meta card in the future that has a puppy classification.
Yeah.
We'll see. But we noticed already with Bolt that classification is not applicable everywhere. So Bolt doesn't have the classification.
It seems to only be the 101 Dalmatian puppies so far.
We'll see.
And speaking of 101 Dalmatians, we have Pongo, Dear Old Dad, also an Amber Sapphire Jewel and Glimmer, 6-cost uninkable 5/5 questing for 2, with the ability Found You, You Little Rascal. At the start of your turn, look at the cards in your inkwell. You may play a puppy card from there for free. Incredibly interesting ability. The first time we're ever seeing an ability that allows you to look at your inkwell, so that's very, very new. It's going to raise a lot of questions. The official tournament rules allow you to use ink tokens, for instance, to represent your inkwell. So this is adding a little bit of a wrinkle into that because you have to have your inkwell of tokens, but also you need to retain those cards and deal with all of that. So it's going to get a little bit messy. One very, very fun interaction that immediately jumps out is Lilo, Escape Artist. She is also a start of your turn ability. So you could choose to play Lilo, exert ink to do it, and then use Pongo to then return one of those ink and then play it for free. So definitely some fun stuff cropping up there.
But that also means that it triggers at the same time at the start of your turn. So it also means before you're drawing, you have to do the whole process to make a decision, independently of Lilo or not. And what is cool as well, even if you don't ended up using to play a puppy character, you have the ability simply to be looking at your inkwell. So I think that is a good payoff for some people that doesn't have a good memory.
It would be great for me. Exactly. I wish I could have that. Up next we have Hiro Hamada, Armor Designer. He's an Emerald Sapphire Jewel type Glimmer, 7-cost inkable, 4/6 questing for 3. Hiro is a Floodborn, so he can shift in at 5, and he also has the ability You Can Be Way More. Your Floodborn characters that have a card under them gain Evasive and Ward, so that's characters you've had to use shift to get them into play. And giving characters blanket, evasive, and ward is a very, very powerful ability. If you shift Hiro onto a character, then he himself is also going to get that ability, which will make it much more difficult to remove him and also your other Floodborn characters. Like, can you imagine giving Clarabelle Light on her hooves? evasive and resist. That's just nutty.
Also, it's not just him. Okay, so every single Floodborn character that has shift
exactly.
will get. Oh my god, this is brutal.
Yeah.
And for being on the Sapphire 7 is not that expensive, especially because you can shift as well, right? So
it's gonna almost mean like if you set this board up, the only thing that's gonna be able to get around it is like a B prepares.
that is insane. Because obviously you can play him at 7 as well. You might not shift, but then all the other ones but him.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Oh my god, I love this card even more.
But I think to maximize, you really want to shift heroes.
Of course.
But imagine like playing this and then following up on the next turn with like an Ink Geyser, and then now all of your characters have. have
and of course you can play the Baymax not on him, but you could play the Baymax on top of something else, and then that Baymax is protected because this one is there, and it's like.
Yeah, this card is.
I'm out.
Yeah,
I love this even more.
It's a super powerful card. We'll have to see if people are able to make it work because, like, on paper, this seems really.
It's just hard, right? Yeah. It's not always that you're gonna have a Floodborn in a shift mode.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So it is a tricky one, but super cool, super creative.
And then last up, we have John Silver, Vengeful Pirate. He's an Emerald Steel Jewel Glimmer. 8-cost inkable, 6/4 questing for 2 with 3 abilities. The first one is Drawn to a Fight. If an opposing character was damaged this turn, you pay 2 ink less to play this character. He has resist +1 because why not? And he also has the ability I Ink on Soft. When you play an action that isn't a song, you may deal 1 damage to a chosen character. So a lot to talk about there. So the first one, this ability doesn't stack. This is an if ability, so if a character has been damaged, then you pay 2 less. It's not if you damage 2 characters, you pay 4 less. If that was the case, it would be like some of the other abilities. Yeah. Well, it'd be brutal, yes, yes, but it'd be like some of the other abilities we've seen. It would say for each character that amount less, which isn't the case. And then the second ability, being able to just be pinging 1 damage to characters, we know is a powerful ability. He can be maybe a little bit late game. Definitely if you're paying 8 for him, he's not going to be getting the most out of his value. You really do want to be paying the 6 cost. But yeah, being able to play Fire the Cannon, deal 2 damage to something, and then ping an extra damage, it can really stack up, and it could be really quite oppressive for an opponent who's not able to get John Silver off the board.
That is super cool. And let's not forget, he's an alien, a pirate, and a captain, so his service
got all of that. Yeah, exactly.
For the other type of decks as well. Yeah, I love this art.
Yeah, it's amazing art. And so we're going to update the tracker now, dropping all of those last Dual Ink cards in. Yeah, so
they're all 60.
There we go. We called it.
We called it.
It took us a while. We did a lot of maths, but we got there in the end. And then starting us off in Amber, we have Calhoun, Battle Tested, a 3-cost inkable, 2/4 questing for 1 with the ability Tactical Advantage. When you play this character, you may choose and discard a card to give chosen character -3 strength until the start of their next turn. So more of those strength reduction abilities for Amber, allowing you to play a little bit defensively. Of course, she has the racer tag, so she will slot into a racer deck, which is funny because she's not actually a racer, right?
That is true.
Yeah. Next, we have Wreck-It Ralph, Hero's Duty, a 6-cost inkable, 3/8 questing for 1 with the ability Outflank. During your turn, whenever one of your other characters is banished, this character gains +1 this turn. So yeah, this is a funny one. I almost would expect this ability to be in Ruby maybe, because Amber's not really a color that wants to be challenging that much. Maybe you want to be singing. So maybe in like an Amber Ruby deck where you're using challenging as potentially a way to deal with your opponent's board, then you can power up Ralph. If you're, throwing in some maybe rush characters, if you're playing like a Maui Hero to Wall, then you can give Ralph an extra law. But I think unless you're able to get him out a bit earlier, like if you're able to, use a Gaston or something to play him a bit earlier, I think he might just get lost in the shuffle, really.
It's very gimmicky. And I think it's because he's the hero, he's like shooting everyone and getting the lore, the medals. But not much to say about it. Yeah.
And finishing us off in Amber, we have Roger Radcliffe, Dog Lover, a 1-cost inkable, 1/2 questing for 1 with the ability, there you go, whenever this character quests, you may remove up to 1 damage from each of your puppy characters. So even more support for those puppy decks. Love to see it. It's nice seeing a 1-drop for this deck because I think so far maybe we don't, or maybe there's 1 puppy that could go into the 1-drop slot. I don't remember. So Roger certainly fills that spot. His ability, it's so-so, but it's there for flavor, I think, more than anything
And
else.
it's cool to get Roger finally. The cast,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So that will do us for Amber. Let's drop those last 3 cards in. I think sadly Amber getting the short end of the stick this set.
Not as bad as Ruby though.
Not as bad as Ruby, but lots of support for puppies. But for competitive decks, I think it's maybe going to struggle a little bit.
You'll see, just a spoiler alert, because you're coming through the whole video now. You notice that not all the colors actually have a super rare associated to them. So pay attention as we put those in the tracker. So pretty much 3 of the ink types doesn't have a super rare, but instead they get a 6 rare, as for example on Sapphire, you'll see that. So pay attention, it's a little bit funny. It's a funny one, but we made some of the mathematical calculations behind it. Yeah. I think it's just to make everything even, because then when we include all the dual ink cards combination, we have 15 super rares and 15 rares. So altogether, it goes even. I find out personally, because in some of the colors, unique colors or ink type uniquely won't have a super rare. But it is what it is. It will be cheaper for us to complete the master set.
So starting us off in Amethyst, a card I'm super excited about. Donald Duck, Flustered Sorcerer, 7 cost, uninkable, 5/6, questing for 3 with the ability Obfuscate. Opponents need 25 lore to win the game. So there you go, changing the rules because that's what cards are allowed to do. A very interesting one. I do think Donald will be going into a very specific type of deck. I think that deck will be Blurple. The reason being, it's a deck that allows you to get to that high ink a lot quicker, and then allowing you to deploy Donald. One of the things Blurple, Amethyst, Sapphire struggles with is sometimes early aggression can overwhelm them, and your opponent will get to 20 lore before you're able to. If you're able to drop Donald Duck, then you not only put a very strong body on the board, but you also mean that your opponent's goalposts get moved a little bit.
That's pretty much it, because we know for a fact, if you play Hyper Aggro against Blurple, most of the time Blurple will lose, right? So that is a tool, as you're saying, right?
Exactly.
There's a few things to keep in mind. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of questions rolling around the internet. This effect is only effective while the card is on play. Yep. So let's say the other opponent, the Hyper Aggro opponent, is at 21 lore, and then they banish this card somehow, then they install in the game at that point, because it goes back to the condition of being 20. Once you play this, is only while it's on board. But the biggest issue as well as a Hyper Aggro player will be how do you take this character from the board once it is there? Because we know that the majority of cards we have for removal doesn't work here. So it's super, super cool, but it's one of those that it pays off for the cost, even though it takes a time to get there, but for a very, very specific deck.
And another thing to say about the rules of this card, it's if you have 4 Donald Ducks in play, your opponent doesn't need to get to 100 lore, it's still only 25 lore.
Exactly, it doesn't stack up.
It doesn't stack up, exactly.
It's just changing the rules of the game to be 25. There's a question as well that came up a lot. Say, again, let's take a hypothetical scenario. The Hyper Aggro player is at 21 lore. And then somehow you're playing Ruby Amethyst, and you have a goat on the board. You use Prepare, both the Donald Duck and the goat goes away. Both reaches 20 at the same time. Is that a draw?
I believe the way it would work, it would be a game
or the active player gets first.
The active player would win. So yeah, there would be a game state check, and the game state check sees if things have been banished, if one of the players have won the game or not. And when that occurs, it would always go from the active player. So the active player would resolve first. They would win, and their opponent would lose, even if their opponent. Exactly. Okay, exactly. I believe that's the way it would work. Anyway, Matthias likes to put me on the.
I love putting it on spot. It's just because it generates a lot of questions. I know the community likes asking those questions as well. But before we carry on, because I love this card so much, this is now my favorite card ever. Donald Duck is my favorite character ever, as you probably know. Ariel is one of my favorite artists ever, supporting Brazil. Bye, Brazil! So I'm so obsessed with this. And if we don't get an enchanted of this, or a set championship card of this, or something of this at one point in the future, I'm going to be very upset.
It's going to be a travesty.
It's going to be a travesty. We've seen the reaction of people online, not just because of the change of the rule, but the character itself. All the references to Kingdom Hearts. I know that's not the same, it's not the same costume, but there's so much there. And Ariel, honestly, you blow out of the park. This is the most beautiful card ever.
It's incredible. I can't wait to see it in person. And then the other legendary for Amethyst, we have the Queen, Jealous Beauty, a 4-cost inkable, 4/3, questing for 1, with the ability No Ordinary Apple, exert, choose 3 cards from chosen opponent's discard and put them on the bottom of their deck to gain 3 lore. If any princess cards were moved this way, gain 4 lore instead. So a very important thing to say about this is it's an all or nothing ability. So if your opponent only has 2 cards in their discard, then you wouldn't be able to trigger this ability. You need to have them to have 3 cards there. It is an interesting one. There are some cards like the Lilo Escape Artist. If it's in a discard pile, she can become quite the nuisance because your opponent can bring her back turn after turn. So this is a way to get rid of her. It's a way to get rid of things like the Lucky Dime, which could be recurred by a Tamatoa, a new Tamatoa or an old Tamatoa, both able to recur the Lucky Dime. So it can really disrupt your opponent's game plan. The only issue, and we've seen it time and time again, these cards that don't have on-play abilities, that have exert abilities, they become too easy, I think, in the current format to remove. Maybe you're able to give her ward and then she'll survive at least one turn. If she does, then you can do this and gain some lore. But I think just like as she is, if you play her down onto an empty board, I think she just won't stick around.
She's going to be a target. And I think if you see especially the synergy with Princess cards, we're looking more towards the Steel Song type of deck because you want to remove those princesses to get 4 lore. Against a Steel Song kind of deck, it's so easy to remove her as well. So there's the risks. I do like it. I do feel like I really want to experiment with this card. And I'm going to say something that is so obvious, but I'm going to say anyway. If you're wondering, this type of effect, if you do exert to activate, you are not questing. Questing does not count as exerting, even though you're exerting for questing. So you have to choose, am I questing or am I activating the effect by exerting?
Yeah, but the interesting thing about that is if you play something like LeFou, you could exert her, play it well, or you can use this ability twice.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It isn't something that's blocked from those abilities already.
Unless specifically the cards say you cannot quest or you cannot. There's always a information in the card.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not sure that the Queen is going to be shaking up the meta anytime soon, unfortunately.
But I will use because I love this card.
And then next up we have Mana Mim, Cheating Spellcaster, a 6-cost inkable for 5, questing for 2 with the ability Play Rough. When this character quests, exert chosen opposing character, so some more control there for Amethyst. Very similar, in my opinion, to Ursula's Sea Witch Queen. Ursula is a 7-cost inkable, but she is a 4/7 questing for 3 rather than 2. She can shift in at 5, and she can also stop players from being able to sing songs. So I think, in general, Ursula definitely a much better card than Madame Mim, unfortunately.
Not to mention that the Madame Mim is only to the opposing character. Ursula, you can do to yourself if for some reason you wanted to exert. Just a quick correction is whenever, not just when. So whenever this character quests.
And then next we have Elsa, Trusted Sister. Even more Elsas this set. She is a 2-cost inkable, 2/3 questing for 1 with the ability, what do we do now? Whenever this character quests, if you have a character named Anna in play, gain 1 lore. So that's really nice. Like, we always love seeing these synergies between characters. It's definitely fun for theme decks. I think there is potential, it's a way to gain lore. Maybe if you're playing a Sapphire Amethyst Frozen deck, this can help you get some more lore, which is always a really good thing to have. It makes it a little bit more competitively viable. I know lots of younger players that really enjoy playing with the Frozen characters, so it gives that deck a little bit more strength, which
especially
is
because that deck has that synergy already, right?
Exactly,
with the whole
the heroes
and so on. It's also it's not a bad card. I'm not gonna say it's good, but even if it was vanilla, the stats are not that horrible for a second turn.
Absolutely,
card. So it's cool, super cool.
Imagine if you have the Sapphire Anna. When she quests, she gives your hero characters +1, and then you quest with Elsa, she's then questing for 3.
That's what I'm saying,
So
there's so many cool synergies if you play together.
Next up, we have Honeymarin Northuldra Guide, a 2-cost inkable, 2/2 questing for 1, with the ability Tale of the Fifth Spirit. When you play this character, if an opponent has an exerted character in play, gain 1 lore. So a cheaper version of the White Rose. It is conditional on your opponent having an exerted character, but if you're playing a Frozen deck, you're going to have so many effects to exert characters, it's going to definitely be possible. Even if you don't, most of the time your opponent will have an exerted character for you to be able to gain this benefit.
Yeah, it's interesting to look at this card because already that for me is worse than the previous one because of the stat line, because of the condition of being exerted. Obviously, again, this is on play, so you're.
I think that's where the benefit is.
That's the benefit coming for. I will make a comment though. I wish there was a relation between Honeymarin and Elsa somehow to hint their relationship. Yeah. Well, I don't think they decided to go there.
The ability, right? Tale of the Fifth Spirit. Elsa's the Fifth Spirit.
But I wish it was like a synergy. Maybe like literally saying, if it has Elsa in play.
Getting too low instead.
Getting too low, there you go.
I think it'd be too powerful. And shout out to Missy Enchanted who revealed both of these cards. Yes. A super fun reveal.
Watch their reveal because it's so funny.
And check her out over on Instagram. And then next, we're going to look at Bucky Nutty Rascal, 3-cost inkable, 3/2, questing for 1 with the ability Pop. When this character is banished in a challenge, you may draw a card. So a little bit more conditional card draw for Amethyst, always nice to see. Important to say that this is whenever the challenge happens, so it could be on your turn or your opponent's turn. So against decks that aren't steel decks, you're probably going to be getting to make use of Bucky's ability. He does have 3 strength as well, which means he will be able to trade favorably in a lot of situations, and then he replaces himself as well.
This is the Bucky that I want to hug, not the other one. So I'm glad he's here.
It's nice to see a nice Bucky rather than a mean Bucky. And then the last card we have in Amethyst is going to be Tekka, Lava Monster, 6-cost inkable, a 5/6 questing for 2 with Challenger +2. So perfect shift target for the Floodborn Tekka that we saw. It means you can play her on 6 and then shift her on 7. But yeah, I think on her own, maybe not the best card. I think there are better options in Amethyst.
I've just been waiting for a lower cost Tekka to come in.
Yeah.
I think she's just too powerful. They cannot give her a lower cost.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see Tekka after the Heart of Tefiti has been returned and she's
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we're seeing that in the playmat. How far it will go.
Exactly,
she's there, right? But it's the music or the song.
Yeah,
it's not the character. I love this art as well. So the lighting is just insane. Yeah.
And okay, so that will do us for Amethyst. We'll drop those last cards in. I think Amethyst somewhere middle of the pack this set. Not the best, but not...
Yeah, no, I don't hate it. There's a lot of interesting cards.
Certainly not the worst.
Donald Duck did for me.
Yeah, he boosted it up. And before we move on, we just want to give a quick shout out to the sponsors of today's video, Heavy Play. Heavy Play are known for their Equip Mag system, which allows you to connect your deck box to your dice box and your playmat with magnets, which makes it super easy to switch between tables when you're playing. They also have their curved sleeves with curved corners, which make it really easy to shuffle, but it also means that you won't have cards upside down in your deck anymore. If you want to get your hands on any Heavy Play products, you can visit the website heavyplay.com and use the discount code Inkborn10 to get 10% off your order. It helps us out at the channel and you get your hands on some awesome products. So thanks again to our sponsors Heavy Play, and let us move over to Emerald. So starting us off in Emerald, and I know a card that Matthias is going to be very excited about. This is Daisy Duck, multi-talented pirate, an 8-cost uninkable 6/5 questing for 3 with the ability Foul Play. Once during your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, chosen opponent chooses one of their characters and returns that card to their hand. So a very interesting ability. I mean, obviously first things first, 8 uninkable, very expensive card. Maybe in an Emerald Sapphire deck it could work as a little bit of removal, a little bit of disruption, but I think just in your stock Emerald deck, I'm not sure she will find a play, but she is a pirate, she's a captain.
It is a tricky one, right, as well, because if you're going against Amethyst, a lot of times I want to return the card to my hand anyway, so it plays in my favor.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it is nice to see that same Daisy Duck coming back with the outfit from the previous set.
Yes.
I was like, how is she flying? But no, she's just not afraid of trampolines. So she just jumped from a trampoline.
Up next in Emerald, we have the other half of the, I don't want to say ugly stepsisters, the
spoiled stepsisters.
The spoiled stepsisters. This is Drizella, spoiled stepsister, a 4-cost inkable, 4/4, questing for 1, vanilla. And I don't have anything to say about this card, but do you, Matthias?
I do have something to say, and we're gonna put an extra effort to edit this here. You probably saw before with Anastasia Beverly Hills Cosmetics. She was on the right side of the card. Anastasia was on the right side of the card. They were going to a party. They had an argument, and she pushes her down. So Drizella is actually a continuous art from Anastasia.
Well, there you
That's
go.
the third one we're calling out here. We'll make a dedicated video for this as well very soon, where we cover all of the continuous art. And if you're curious about the previous ones, go check our trivia playlist, because we have plenty of those there. Beautiful. I think so far that's probably my favorite continuous art in this set.
It's very cool.
It's just so vibrant. And it really matches.
I love the flavor text here. Once again, Drizella was confronted with the simple truth: life wasn't fair. Don't we know it? And then next we're going to see Baymax looks how I feel most days. So this is Baymax, low battery, a 2-cost inkable, 3/2, questing for 2 with the ability Shh. This character enters play exerted. So he has some very good stats, comparable of course to Banzai. His inkable, Banzai is uninkable, but Baymax does have the downside of entering play exerted. But with 3 strength, he is going to trade with basically anything that challenges into him early game. We do have Prince Philip, Royal Explorer, same stats again, but with Ward. So I do think in most cases you will end up playing Prince Philip over Baymax, even though he's a little bit more expensive. But for people building those aggressive Emerald decks, I do think Baymax is definitely a consideration. And even if you're building like a big Hero 6 deck, he's good as well.
Oh, yeah. He's not an inventor, unfortunately, but he's a robot.
He is a robot.
Yes, robot. I do have a question. Do you think people would replace Bonsai for him?
I think maybe...
At turn 2, would they be that worried? I suppose if you didn't start,
it's more the
comes next turn.
It's more the uninkability, I think.
Yeah.
Like if you're struggling with uninkables, then Baymax maybe is a good replacement for Banzai. He's also a common, so he's going to be a little bit easier to get your hands on as well.
That is true.
But yeah, I love this card. The concept of it's hilarious. So yeah,
cute.
It's great. And then the last card for us up in Emerald is Patcher Trekmate, a 3-cost inkable, 3/2 questing for 1 with the ability Full Pack. While you have more cards in your hand than each opponent, this character gets +2 lore. So thankfully, I will say we haven't seen that much support for discard this set. I'm sorry, people who've watched the channel know that we're not huge discard fans. But I actually do like this as a mechanic. I think this is the right way to do discard, honestly, where it's kind of, it's not only rewarding discard, it's also rewarding you. If your opponent's being greedy and emptying their hand and playing a load of characters on board, then it's going to power up Patcher and allow him to quest for a little bit more. Similar in design, I think, to Flynn Rider, his own biggest fan. Flynn is losing lore for cards in hand. Patcher is gaining lore. So I do like this one. I think in an Emerald Steel deck, he could potentially find a home there.
I agree.
So that is everything for Emerald. So let's drop those last 4 cards in. We got... I think Emerald also maybe struggling a little bit this set. I haven't seen anything super powerful.
I don't remember, but I did think that there were a couple that I
There were a couple of nice cards, but I don't think anything that's really going to shake things up. But on to the next color, which is Ruby.
Let's do this.
So starting us off in Ruby, we have the final super rare for Ruby. This is Goofy Extreme Athlete, a 7-cost inkable 7/6. Questing for 1, he is evasive, and he has the ability, whenever this character challenges another character, your other characters get +1 this turn. Reminds me of a Mulan from all the way back in the first chapter. So similar ability, 7-cost, very expensive, unfortunately, even with the evasive. I mean, if you're able to get Goofy to stick to the board, and you do some challenging, maybe in a Ruby Steel deck, this ability could stack up. It could be quite powerful.
It's crazy that is every single other characters of yours, right?
Yeah. I think with the 6 willpower, so we know it's like 5 willpower is that inflection point. Like a character with 6 willpower will survive along Kim Zeus, which can be very, very important. So potentially Goofy could stick to the board and you could get used out of his ability. But
what is the strength of the Maui Half Shark?
Maui Half Shark is a 7/5.
So he could take him down.
Take out Maui,
That's
yes,
the one that
exactly.
could take him down because they're both evasive, right? I just want to correct one thing. We said the last of the super rares, but in fact, this set, we only have 1 super rare per ink type. So it's the only super rare.
The first and last.
And the last.
And then up next, we have the first Stabbington Brother without a patch, a 4-cost uninkable 3/4 questing for 1. He has Rush, and he has the ability, get him, your other characters named Stabbington Brother gain Rush. So decent enough stats, really. Being able to rush in and deal 3 damage can be quite relevant. I do think if we see more Stabbington Brothers, we're going to look at another one, but if we do see another Stabbington Brother, then it could definitely be something that pairs nicely together. And so let's take a look at that Stabbington Brother. So this is the Stabbington Brother with a patch, which I think is like hilarious. Apparently they have like actual names, but they've made the differentiation here with a patch, without a patch. And here's a 5-cost inkable 4/4 questing for 1 with the ability Crime of Opportunity. When you play this character, chosen opponent loses 1 lore. So on the surface, he himself, maybe not the best card, but if you're able to play without a patch first, and then you follow up with a patch, then now not only is he draining a lore, but he's also becoming a rush character as well. So I think
attacking with quite a good.
Yeah, so I think that can be quite a relevant ability, but it does, of course, require you to have both of those characters in your deck and then set them up. But they do play nicely on curve in 4 and 5. So, yeah, and then another character from, I would say, the obscure annals of Disney, because I've never heard of this one, I'll be honest. This is the Phantom Blob, shadowy figure.
Blot.
This is the Phantom Blot, shadowy figure, 2-cost, uninkable, 3/1, questing for 1 with Rush. So, yeah, do you know who the Phantom Blot is?
Well, he's a villain from the old comics. So I think he's an arch enemy for Mickey. I don't know if it's, I don't even want to guess the year. 1800s? No, it can't be.
I'm not sure.
I don't know. It's very, very old. It is a little bit creepy when you do look for him from the comics long ago, because in some of those images he's holding a gun. So it doesn't feel very Disney. I don't know how much of that is canon or not.
Changed.
I know. But it's so weird to see something like this here, right? When we're missing so many other cards that we want here. Still cool though.
But
it's giving a call out for all those fans.
I love that it's like paying service to like the older comics and cartoons. So it's very cool. Sim stat line as Stitch Little Rocket. The difference is he's a villain. So maybe you'll run him. I don't know. I'm not so sure.
We've never seen anyone run Stitch.
Yeah, it's tricky. So that will be all for Ruby. So we'll drop those cards in. I think Ruby really did.
For me, worst color to set, and I'm a Ruby fan.
I know. Yeah. I think
very upset.
I think they probably designed these cards at a time when Ruby was really
strong. So they said, "What do we do? Let's hold it down now."
Yeah. So a bit of a shame, but we'll move over to probably the strongest color this set, and that is Sapphire. We are going to start off in Sapphire, and we have a card because Sapphire didn't, it wasn't powerful enough this set. They're going to get Belle, Apprentice Inventor, a 3-cost Inkable, 3/3 questing for 1. So far, so good. And with the ability, what a mess. During your turn, you may banish chosen item of yours to play this character for free. So we'll have to wait for the official ruling on this, but I believe the way this ability is written is that the you may banish chosen item of yours is considered a cost in order to play Belle. So it means you can't just banish a Popsicle healer character and then because it was banished play Belle. I think you'll have to declare exactly, you'll have to declare you're playing Belle and the cost you're going to pay is banishing the Popsicle. So I think that's how it'll work. We'll see for sure, but it means the new unconventional tool, an item that was introduced into the game, you could banish that using Belle's ability and then not only pay 2 less for the next item you play,
but also play
Belle. So there's a lot of combos here.
And guess what? This is, which color are those? Ruby, Sapphire. Just letting you know.
So that is definitely a card. That's definitely a card this set. For Sapphire Steel, this is actually a really great card because you can play Belle. It gives you a Singer 3 on turn 1, which can help you control that early game. You can use it in even a Sapphire Amethyst deck. You can use her as the shift target for the Accomplished Mystic Belle, and of course she will also be a shift target for the new Ruby Sapphire Belle. She's an inventor and a princess and a hero, so she's got a lot going for her.
I do want to say, because I like commenting on that, the lighting, the rendering of this card, insane. I always have to call out when I see that the lighting is so good like this. It's just insane,
and the facial expression,
it's beautiful. It feels
so
very
good.
much like the cartoon. Actually, it really make her like look like the cartoon Belle. Amazing. And
hey, you know what I just noticed? Look at her hand. Look at what she's holding.
Oh, she's holding the unconventional tool. So there goes. That's the answer. We're like, is it connected? Is it not? There goes.
There you go.
10 points.
10 points for Gryffindor. And then next up, we have Matthias, okay. Arundel General, 2-cost Inkable, 3/2 questing for 1. With the ability Proud to Serve, your queen characters gain ward. So actually kind of a nice low-key ability there that could actually work out quite well. I mean, if you're building like a queen tribal deck, you can throw him in there, and then he's powering up all of the queen characters.
And he has good stats. And he has good stats to cost, and he's a knight. Don't we have some synergies on the knight as well with Anna?
Yeah, with Anna, we have some with the Seven Dwarfs Mine. So
not bad.
Not
nice
bad
to see Matthias joining the game.
And then up next we have Freckles, Good Boy, a 2-cost Inkable, 2/2 questing for 1 with the ability Just So Cute. When you play this character, chosen opposing character gets -2 this turn. An alright ability. I think the way the puppy deck is being kind of like hinted at through the mechanics we have, it's a little bit more of an aggro deck rather than a kind of offensive deck. So the fact you're giving a character -1 strength this turn only is maybe not that relevant. You probably will just end up wanting to play one of the regular puppies instead. They're a 2/3, so they're going to stick around a little bit longer. But this card is super cute, and the reveal from Lorcana, incredibly cute. Like, I'm just blown away by the creativity of the community.
So. They treat the card as a dog, as a puppy, but watch not
the just giving the spoilers.
It's just so good.
Go and check it out. And also, the Lorcana do have the Lorcana awards coming up, so check those out as they're going to be voting. Community is going to be voting on.
So make sure to check it. Make sure to leave your vote before the wards comes through.
And then up next, we have Penny the Orphan, Clever Child, a 2-cost inkable, 2/1 questing for 2. With the ability Our Bottle Worked, while you have a hero character in play, this character gains ward. So we actually said in the previous video when Penny from Bolt was revealed, we're like, how are they going to differentiate her from Penny from the Rescuers? And there we go, Penny's...
Very in your face, Penny the Orphan.
Yeah, Penny from Bolt has a mother. She was like central to the plot. Penny from the Rescuers, she doesn't, she's an orphan.
That is horrible.
So she does get adopted at the end.
She
though.
does.
Sorry,
No, it's a beautiful story.
So yeah, I actually do think this card is quite nice. We saw this, the emergence of like a steel sapphire aggro deck, which was the Kiwi Birds, I think was the name for it. So Penny could potentially slot into something like that. Stats comparable to Duke Wesselton.
Just flipped.
Yeah, just flipped exactly, but she does require you to have a hero in play. But yeah, I think decent enough card. Card. And that is everything for Sapphire. So let's drop those cards in. So that will do us for Sapphire. And then we'll move over to Steel. So starting us off in Steel, we have Razul, Menacing Guard, 2-cost inkable, 1/3, questing for 1 with the ability by orders come from Jafar. When you play this character, if you have a character named Jafar in play, you may banish chosen item. So kind of a fun ability there. I think it's more flavor than anything else. I'm not sure it's that competitive of an ability, but it's nice to see Razul.
That is interesting. I would think that it will come in the next set, but it's just preparing towards that, right? Not much to say, to be honest. I don't think I'll ever see this card in play.
So next we have Tuk Tuk, Disarmingly Cute, a 2-cost uninkable, 0/1 questing for 1. Tuk Tuk is a bodyguard, but he also has resist +2. So another interesting card. I don't know how competitive this one's going to be. Resist 2 is nice, but we saw a card this set, Queen of Hearts, who when you play a character, you put 1 damage counter on it. So something like that will just immediately banish
just bypass the resist because it's but a damage. It's not performing a damage.
And I think we've seen a lot of these abilities this set, especially this set where it's like move 1 damage counter, put 1 damage counter. So I think a card with only 1 willpower, even with resist 2, I think is just not going to be finding a spot in this metagame.
It's an inkable.
Yeah, and it's an inkable. I think we have other bodyguards that fit this slot way better, unfortunately. But
where is the good Tuk Tuk?
Super cute.
Disarmingly cute.
And then next we have Farzal, War Hero, a 3-cost inkable, 2/3 questing for 1, with the ability Training Exercises. Each time one of your characters challenges another character, if it's the second challenge this turn, you gain 3 law. So I believe the way this would work is that the first time there's a challenge, you don't get anything. The second time there's a challenge, you gain 3 law. The third time and then on you challenge, you gain 0 law. So it's really...
Oh, is that what you think?
I think so, because it's only checking in the ability if it's the second time.
So why is it each time?
So I think the way it would work, it's kind of like a computer program, right? So each time is, every time there's a challenge happening, it's checking. So that's the trigger.
Okay.
And then the secondary condition is if it's the second challenge, that's the one that's actually giving you the 3 law. Okay. So that's why, yeah, first time, third time, no law. Second time, 3 law. But definitely some more support for that kind of Ruby Steel Challenger build, I think. Yeah, it's an interesting one. And then we'll move on to the next one, which is Training Staff. This is a 2-cost inkable item with the ability Precision Strike. Exert, pay 1, chosen character against Challenger +2 this turn. Very similar to the Imperial Bow. The same cost as that. The only difference is the Imperial Bow, it had to be a hero, but they got evasive as well. So I do think the Imperial Bow is probably a little bit more versatile, unless you're really running a deck that has no heroes, in which case you would opt for the Training Staff. But yeah.
I see. I was about to question how is this not power creep, but I just realized that the other one is for heroes.
It's the same but different.
Yeah.
So yeah, I still think Imperial Bow probably a better option.
Because probably if you are to the point to add Imperial Bow to your deck, you probably have loads of heroes at that point. Yeah. Exactly.
And then the last card for ARCHAZIA'S Island set 7 is TikTok Relentless Crocodile. Here's a 5-cost inkable, 5/6, questing for 1 with the ability Looking for Lunch. During your turn, this character gains evasive whilst a pirate character is in play. So yeah, it is what it is. We've seen like Steel has a lot of these characters getting evasive on their turn. TikTok just requires a little bit more setup, but he will eat a genie for breakfast.
He will. He will. It's just there's so many constraints, right? I feel like it's so specific.
Yeah, I wish it was like a blanket evasive, but maybe that would be a little bit too
probably. Yeah. And he's just a storyborn as well. Yeah. It's funny that he's not a villain. I suppose he's just a crocodile. He's not doing that on purpose.
Yeah, and he eats Captain Hook, so if anything, he'd be a
Exactly,
hero.
he helps everyone. True.
So yeah, that is it. That's the last card. So we'll drop them in there now for steel. And that is us done for yet another set.
So the question of the day.
Yes.
From today's reviews, your favorite card, and from all 204 cards, your favorite card.
Okay.
And I'm asking you first because I need to think as well.
Okay, so my favorite from this batch, probably here. I don't think he'll be playable, but I just think the card is hilarious. It's brilliant. It's beautiful. A great card. Overall, this set, I think my favorite card, and maybe the reason I might play Sapphire this set, is the new Tamatoa. I just think the design of that card, it just seems insane. It has so much upside. Maybe I'll show it on screen in case you forget what it does. So much upside. Yeah, I just love the card. Love the artwork on the card. Just excited to play it in the deck.
Okay, so my favorite card ever is Donald Duck that we reviewed today.
Okay.
That's probably my favorite from the set as well, but obviously it's not the most playable. My second favorite card, so I'll say today's is Donald Duck's.
Yeah.
For this set, even though I don't know how strong it is either, is the Queen of Hearts, the dual wing Queen of Hearts. Just stunning, the Ruby Emerald one, right? So that for me was the most impressive one for this set.
Okay, now it's your turn. And let us know down in the comments. Favorite card from this batch, favorite card from the whole set of ARCHAZIA'S Island. And remember, the enchanted cards are going to start being revealed as of tomorrow. So stay tuned to the channel because Amethyst is going to be putting out a nice video with the enchanteds. And also check out our Instagram because we will be updating those enchanteds as soon as they come out.
And it's not just about news, right? Our Instagram is always active. We're doing so many quizzes.
There's always something to do.
There's always something to do, always something to see, and also the references to the videos we do. So just follow us either way. And once a new season comes up, all the cards will be there as well.
Absolutely. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give us a like as it does help us out. And subscribe because we're going to be covering all of ARCHAZIA'S Island when it's released, from the starter decks to the best cards,
everything.
Opening some boxes, all of this stuff. So definitely subscribe for this. And of course, Matthias's enchanted video. One last shout out to our sponsors of this video, HeavyPlay. Remember, you can grab your HeavyPlay products at heavyplay.com and use the discount code Inkborn10 at checkout to get 10% off your order. Thanks again, as always, to our YouTube members. We really do appreciate all of the support on the channel. If you want to become a YouTube member, you can hit the join button down below to get all of the details.
And then as always, check the link for our Discord server just down below in the description of this video and come join our Lorcana family.
Yeah, come hang out with us.
Come hang out with us. And thank you so much for sticking around from the beginning, all those news and review season.
Yeah.
I'm actually quite excited for the next one already, Reign of Jafar. But we can take a little bit of a break. Let's release other types of videos in between. So stay tuned until the end of time.
Yes.
And until next time, happy questing.